Brace yourself, because the energy surrounding this day is unlike anything you have experienced over the past several weeks. What unfolds today has the power to dissolve the emotional weight that has quietly settled over your thoughts, your heart, and even your ability to trust your own inner voice. If you have felt trapped inside endless overthinking, unable to separate truth from fear, unable to understand why familiar emotions suddenly became overwhelming, you are not imagining any of it. Every strange feeling, every unanswered question, every moment of mental exhaustion has been leading toward a single turning point. And that turning point arrives today. On July 12th, Mercury reaches the exact heart of the Sun in the rare celestial alignment known as a kazimi. This is not simply another astrological event passing through the calendar. It represents the precise instant when Mercury steps directly into the Sun's brilliance, allowing everything that has been hidden beneath emotional interference to become visible again. This shift does not unfold little by little. It does not wait for today or next week. It happens with remarkable speed, almost as though an invisible veil is lifted from your awareness, and suddenly your thoughts begin connecting in ways they could not only moments before. Ideas that seemed impossible to grasp become obvious. Feelings that refused to make sense suddenly reveal the truth they had been carrying all along. Yet clarity is only the surface of what this alignment brings. Hidden beneath this extraordinary moment are three distinct revelations that have been patiently waiting throughout Mercury's retrograde journey. They have been attempting to reach your consciousness through confusion, emotional noise, and mental distraction. They have whispered through uncertainty, while your attention remained focused on everything except the message itself. Today, those whispers become impossible to ignore. That is why your awareness matters more now than it has in weeks. If your attention drifts elsewhere, you could overlook the very realization that has been trying to find you since this retrograde first began. And there is something else worth noticing. If your nights have become unusually vivid, if your dreams have carried an intensity that refuses to disappear after waking, if they have felt less like imagination and more like forgotten memories resurfacing from somewhere deep within you, do not dismiss them. There is a meaningful reason those experiences have become stronger recently. They are connected to everything happening in the sky right now, and later I will explain exactly why they have become so persistent. Before we reach that point, however, we need to understand what these past weeks have truly been asking of you. Most people reduce Mercury retrograde to technological glitches, delayed plans, misplaced messages, and everyday inconveniences. While those experiences certainly exist, they barely scratch the surface of what this particular retrograde has actually been doing. The haze surrounding your mind was never accidental. It served a purpose from the very beginning. If we are honest, the past 2 weeks have challenged people in ways few expected. This has not resembled the familiar stories about missed flights or malfunctioning devices. Instead, it reached directly into the emotional landscape of your inner world. Ever since Mercury stationed retrograde on June 29th, something subtle but undeniable has felt different. The external world may have continued moving as usual, yet inside your own consciousness, everything seemed unsettled. Thoughts you believed were finished suddenly returned without invitation. Conversations from months or even years ago replayed themselves during the quietest hours of the night. You may have found yourself awake long after midnight, unable to silence memories that seemed determined to be heard. Perhaps someone sent you a perfectly ordinary message that should not have carried much emotional weight, yet somehow those simple words landed with surprising force, stirring emotions far greater than the moment itself appeared to justify. Perhaps a powerful wave of nostalgia arrived unexpectedly, pulling you towards someone you promised yourself you had already released, making you question decisions you once believed were final. None of these experiences happened by chance. Mercury is not traveling backward through an intellectual air sign or a practical earth sign during this retrograde. It is moving through Cancer, the zodiac's deepest emotional landscape. Cancer does not analyze life primarily through detached reasoning. It absorbs reality through feeling, memory, instinct, the nervous system, and the body's emotional intelligence. Because of that, Mercury behaves differently here. Instead of simply slowing communication or creating minor misunderstandings, it opens emotional reservoirs that have remained sealed beneath the surface. Suddenly, every feeling left unresolved begins demanding attention. Every conversation that ended before the truth was spoken returns for another chance. Every emotion you buried because the timing felt wrong rises back into awareness, asking to be acknowledged. This was never the universe attempting to make your life more difficult. It was preparing your heart for something that could only arrive after these emotions resurfaced. The mental fog you have been fighting was not meaningless confusion. It was pressure quietly building beneath the surface before release became possible. That release begins today. If this entire week has felt emotionally overwhelming even before Mercury reached this pivotal moment, the sky itself explains why. On July 4th, Mars collided with Uranus in Gemini, releasing a sudden surge of unpredictable energy that rippled through both individual lives and the collective atmosphere. Unexpected conversations emerged. News arrived without warning. Situations changed so quickly that certainty seemed to disappear overnight. Many people experienced the unsettling realization that what once felt secure was not nearly as stable as they had believed. Then, only 2 days later, the Sun formed a square with Saturn. If the Mars and Uranus alignment resembled a flash of lightning breaking across the sky, Saturn became the immense weight that followed afterward. Life suddenly demanded accountability. Responsibilities felt heavier. Personal limitations became impossible to ignore. It seemed as though reality itself was asking more from you than you believed you had left to give. Throughout this period, you have been carrying both forces at once. One side of the sky pushed everything towards sudden disruption, while the other demanded restraint, endurance, and patience. One energy urged immediate action, while the other slowed every step forward. Your nervous system has been suspended between the instinct to fight and the instinct to freeze, searching desperately for certainty where none seemed available. Your mind kept circling the same emotional patterns, trying to organize experiences that refused to obey ordinary logic. That endless mental looping was never evidence that something was wrong with you. It was the natural response of a psyche attempting to process more emotional information than it could immediately integrate. The retrograde fog was never punishment. It was your consciousness gathering every unfinished emotional thread before weaving them into a complete picture. And now, as Mercury stands in the exact heart of the Sun through today's Kazimi, that scattered picture finally begins arranging itself with astonishing speed. What seemed disconnected finds its place. What seemed impossible to understand becomes unmistakably clear. The question now is not whether something significant is happening. The real question is whether you are prepared to recognize what this extraordinary moment is about to reveal. As the evening of July 12th unfolds, a moment arrives that astrologers have watched for centuries because of the extraordinary transformation it represents. At exactly 9:30 at night, Mercury reaches the precise mathematical center of the Sun. It is not merely approaching the Sun or moving alongside it. It enters the very heart of its light. That distinction changes everything. Throughout astrology, a planet traveling too close to the Sun is considered combust, a condition where its natural expression becomes overwhelmed beneath the Sun's overwhelming brilliance. Imagine trying to recognize your own reflection while standing directly beneath a blinding spotlight. The reflection still exists, but you cannot see it clearly because the light itself has become too intense. That image perfectly mirrors what many people have been experiencing since this retrograde began. Your ability to think with confidence, to communicate honestly, To separate emotional truth from emotional reaction has seemed buried beneath an intensity you could not fully explain. It has felt as though every attempt to understand your own thoughts only created more questions instead of answers. Decisions became harder. Conversations carried hidden emotional weight. Even ordinary situations seemed capable of awakening feelings you believed had already faded. Yet this evening, the entire energetic landscape shifts. When Mercury comes within 17 arc minutes of the Sun's exact center, the ancient definition changes completely. It is no longer considered consumed by the solar fire. Instead, it enters one of astrology's most respected conditions, the kazimi. This ancient Arabic word translates as being in the heart of the sun, and its symbolism reaches far beyond simple proximity. Rather than losing its voice inside the sun's brilliance, Mercury is elevated by it. Ancient astrologers believed that a planet standing in the heart of the sun received the blessing, authority, and unwavering clarity of the solar king himself. Instead of becoming weaker, it emerged carrying greater purpose than before. Picture someone who has spent weeks wandering through relentless heat, exhausted, uncertain, and unable to tell whether they are walking towards safety or deeper into the wilderness. Every step becomes heavier than the last. Every direction appears identical. Then, rather than escaping the fire, that traveler walks directly into its center. Logic would suggest destruction. Yet the opposite occurs. The fire strips away everything unnecessary. Confusion falls away. Fear loses its grip. Doubt has nothing left to feed upon. What remains is not the person who entered the flames, but someone transformed by them. That is the energetic story unfolding today. The interference that has surrounded your thoughts begins disappearing with astonishing speed. Emotional static no longer dominates every decision. The countless competing voices inside your mind grow quiet enough for genuine truth to become unmistakable. This is not simply a temporary improvement in concentration. It is the kind of realization that permanently changes how you understand yourself. The clarity arriving through today's kazimi creates a foundation that influences the direction of your life for the next 4 months. Because once a truth reaches this level of certainty, returning to old illusions becomes almost impossible. Earlier, I mentioned the unusually vivid dreams many people have been experiencing, and now their purpose becomes easier to understand. This particular kazimi unfolds in Cancer, the zodiac sign governed by the moon. Cancer is deeply connected to the subconscious, emotional memory, instinctive awareness, and the language of the body itself. Unlike signs that rely primarily upon analysis or detached reasoning, Cancer communicates through sensation before explanation. It speaks in feelings, long before it forms complete thoughts. That means the understanding arriving today may not appear as a perfectly organized sentence inside your mind. Instead, it is likely to arrive as something much quieter, yet infinitely more convincing. It feels like certainty before evidence appears. It settles inside your chest before your intellect has time to explain why. Those dreams that have lingered with you long after waking, the ones where familiar faces from your past returned in scenes that seemed emotionally significant, even when they made little logical sense, have not been meaningless fragments of imagination. Your subconscious has been working tirelessly beneath the surface, arranging emotional information, while your conscious mind remained too overwhelmed to receive it directly. Those dreams have functioned like rehearsals, preparing you for insights that required the right celestial timing before they could fully emerge into awareness. Today, that timing arrives. The boundary separating your conscious awareness from your subconscious becomes remarkably thin, allowing information to move freely between both worlds. You may notice meaningful coincidences becoming impossible to ignore. A particular song may begin playing at the exact moment your emotions need confirmation. Someone's name may suddenly enter your thoughts only moments before they contact you unexpectedly. You may experience an unmistakable sensation within your body that something has shifted long before your logical mind catches up to explain it. This is the unique language of a Cancer Kazimi. It rarely announces itself through dramatic speeches or perfectly structured reasoning. Instead, it communicates through resonance, emotional recognition, physical sensation, and that unmistakable feeling of suddenly knowing something with absolute certainty, even though 5 minutes earlier you could not have explained it at all. Everything this retrograde has been building toward now begins revealing itself through three profound realizations, each one uncovering a different layer of emotional truth that has remained hidden beneath weeks of uncertainty. The first revelation reaches directly into a pattern many people have repeated without consciously recognizing it. During these past 2 weeks, moments of misunderstanding, emotional distance, unnecessary conflict, and conversations that escalated far beyond their original purpose have all shared a common root. They have been driven by protection, but not the healthy kind that creates safety. This has been protection that slowly transformed into isolation. Cancer is symbolized by the crab, a creature with remarkable softness hidden beneath an incredibly durable shell. Under the emotional pressure of this retrograde, that shell has quietly grown thicker. Without realizing it, you may have withheld your true feelings during moments when honesty was exactly what the relationship required. Instead of expressing your needs directly, perhaps you hoped someone would discover them without your having to speak. Perhaps you quietly measured another person's love by whether they could read emotions you never openly revealed. When they failed to understand, disappointment quickly became proof that they did not truly care. Yet today's Kazimi shines its light directly onto that protective pattern. It reveals with undeniable clarity that the emotional walls built to prevent pain have gradually prevented intimacy as well. They have blocked not only disappointment, but also connection, vulnerability, honesty, and the possibility of being fully understood. You may suddenly recognize that what you believed was preserving harmony was actually postponing a conversation your heart desperately needed to have. Silence may have appeared strong on the outside, while quietly concealing fear beneath the surface. The realization may feel uncomfortable because another truth follows close behind it. The person standing beyond those emotional barriers may never have intended to wound you in the first place. They simply could not reach someone who had become impossible to reach. The first message carried by today's Kazimi is both gentle and transformative. Your emotional sensitivity has never been evidence that something is wrong with you. It is not a flaw requiring thicker armor. It is one of your greatest sources of intelligence. Every feeling carries information. Every emotional response contains meaningful guidance. When you stop treating your sensitivity as something that must be hidden, you finally allow it to become the wisdom it was always meant to be. Think back to the moments over the past 2 weeks that seemed almost insignificant on the surface. The cancelled plans, the delayed replies, the conversations that ended with more distance than understanding. Ask yourself honestly whether those moments were ever truly about what happened. The answer is probably no. When someone changed plans at the last minute and disappointment washed over you, what hurt was not the schedule itself. It awakened a much older wound, the quiet belief that your priorities are always the first to be sacrificed, that your needs somehow become negotiable while everyone else's remain important. When hours passed without a reply to a message and your heart grew unexpectedly heavy, the feeling was never simply about waiting for a text. It reflected the exhaustion of carrying years of conversations where nothing was fully expressed, where assumptions replaced honesty, and where silence slowly became the language everyone accepted without questioning. Throughout this retrograde, you may have translated your deepest emotions into restraint, convincing yourself that staying quiet would protect the relationship, prevent conflict, or preserve peace. Yet every unspoken sentence carried its own emotional weight, collecting beneath the surface until your inner world became crowded with everything you wished had been said. Today's Kazimi refuses to let those patterns remain hidden. The sun's light removes every comfortable excuse that has allowed avoidance to disguise itself as maturity. Suddenly, the truth becomes remarkably uncomplicated. Speak what lives inside your heart. Express it without disguises. Let your words be direct. Let them be compassionate, and let them carry honesty instead of expectation. Stop believing that people who truly care should automatically understand feelings that have never been shared aloud. Stop asking others to interpret emotional signals that were never intended to be puzzles in the first place. The protective barriers that once helped you survive no longer serve the person you are becoming. Instead of shielding your heart, they have begun limiting your freedom to experience authentic connection. Today's alignment makes that realization impossible to ignore. At the same time, another message quietly begins revealing itself, one that reaches beyond the present moment and into the unfinished stories you thought had already ended. Over these past weeks, the past has seemed strangely alive. Perhaps someone you never expected to hear from appeared again without warning. Perhaps an old memory emerged while doing something completely ordinary, carrying emotions that felt surprisingly fresh despite the years that have passed. Maybe an abandoned dream, a forgotten creative passion, or a version of yourself you believed had disappeared forever has repeatedly surfaced in your thoughts, refusing to fade no matter how often you try to move on. Some of you may have encountered these forgotten pieces of your life inside your dreams, where younger versions of yourself appeared with such vivid presence that waking up felt more confusing than comforting. Mercury Retrograde has brought these old chapters back into your awareness and left them waiting patiently before you. Until now, you may have wondered what you were supposed to do with them. Should you reopen doors that were once closed? Should you protect yourself by refusing to look back? Or should you allow those memories to remain exactly where they are, without searching for meaning? Today's Kazimi offers a level of discernment that has been unavailable until this moment. It reveals that not every return carries the same purpose. Some things have come back because they belong beside you again. Others have returned only so you can finally release them without regret. Within Vedic astrology, there exists an ancient concept connected to the very region of the sky through which this retrograde unfolds. It is known as Punarvasu, a name that speaks of light returning and of recovering something that was once lost. Its symbol is a quiver filled with arrows, representing the archer who retrieves what has already been released and recognizes that it still possesses value. That symbolism mirrors exactly what this retrograde has been accomplishing within your life. It has not asked you to become someone entirely new. Instead, it has guided you back toward forgotten pieces of yourself that still belong within your future. Perhaps you abandoned a natural gift because someone convinced you it lacked practical value. Perhaps you walked away from a relationship before its deeper lesson had fully unfolded. Perhaps somewhere along the journey into adulthood, you left behind the simple feeling of emotional safety that once came naturally. Whatever it may be, something waiting in your personal history contains an essential key that your future cannot fully unlock without first reclaiming it. Today's Kazimi illuminates precisely which forgotten treasure deserves to be carried forward. Yet this revelation contains another side that is equally important. The same clarity capable of restoring what is genuine also strips away the comforting illusions created by nostalgia. Memories have a remarkable ability to soften difficult experiences over time, highlighting warmth while quietly hiding pain. Today, that illusion begins dissolving. You will no longer remember only what felt beautiful. You will remember what it required of you. You will recognize not only the comfort certain people once offered, but also the emotional price you paid to remain connected to them. The difference between authentic reconciliation and emotional repetition becomes unmistakably clear. By the close of July 12th, certainty replaces speculation. You will not merely wonder what deserves a place in the next chapter of your life. You will know with deep inner conviction which people, dreams, talents, and memories belong beside you, and which fulfilled their purpose simply by teaching you what you needed before quietly stepping away. Then comes perhaps the most unexpected message of all, because it invites you to do the very thing this entire retrograde has made feel almost impossible. It asks you to use your voice. Astrology contains an ancient symbolic language that assigns a unique image to every individual degree of the zodiac, allowing each degree to express a distinct spiritual lesson. The degree where the Sun and Mercury unite today, Cancer 21, carries a striking symbol. It is the image of a prima donna singing with complete confidence. She is not hiding behind others. She is not lowering her voice to make those around her comfortable. She does not retreat into the background, hoping someone else will speak on her behalf. She stands fully visible, expressing herself without apology or hesitation. That is the living archetype, awakened by today's Kazimi. After weeks spent questioning your own perspective, editing your thoughts before speaking them, doubting whether your experiences truly mattered, or wondering whether remaining silent might somehow be safer, the universe delivers a remarkably direct invitation. Your voice carries purpose. It is not simply appreciated when convenient, it is genuinely needed. The emotional awareness you have developed through every difficult experience, the sensitivity that allows you to perceive what others overlook, and the wisdom gained from sitting with your own pain instead of running from it, have become strengths rather than burdens. They have shaped a perspective that cannot be replaced by anyone else's. In a world increasingly overwhelmed by constant noise, quick judgments, and surface-level opinions, authentic truth spoken with compassion possesses extraordinary power. Yet today's Kazimi also refuses to ignore the shadow hidden within this lesson. It gently but firmly reminds you that there is an important distinction between expressing your truth and allowing your identity to become permanently attached to your suffering. One creates freedom. The other quietly asks pain to remain because it has become the only story left to tell. There is an unmistakable difference between a voice that naturally commands attention because it carries sincerity, wisdom, and lived experience, and a voice that desperately reaches for recognition out of fear that it might otherwise disappear into the background. Those two energies may sound similar from a distance, yet they come from entirely different places within the soul. The higher expression of the archetype, awakened today, is someone whose words resonate because they emerge from genuine truth, someone capable of touching another person's heart simply by speaking what is real without embellishment or performance. The lower expression is driven by insecurity, by the need to remain the center of attention, by the belief that visibility alone creates value. One inspires, the other demands. One creates connection, the other seeks validation. Today's Kazimi gives you the extraordinary gift of recognizing which of those voices has been guiding you. The answer will not arrive through complicated analysis. Your body will recognize it long before your intellect begins explaining why. As thoughts begin rising from within you, pause for a moment and notice where they originate. If they emerge from fear, from the desire to prove yourself, from the need to win approval or avoid rejection, you will feel the tension they carry. If they rise from your heart, they will possess a quiet certainty that requires no performance. They will feel steady instead of urgent. They will invite honesty rather than applause. If that deeper truth begins asking to be spoken today, do not silence it once again. Allow it to leave your heart and enter the world. There are conversations that cannot move forward until you choose authenticity over protection. There are people who have been waiting to meet the real version of you rather than the carefully guarded one. There are opportunities that can only recognize you after you stop hiding behind hesitation. Your voice has never needed to become louder. It has simply needed to become more truthful. As remarkable as today's alignment is, it should not be mistaken for the conclusion of the journey. The kazimi represents the doorway, not the destination. Everything that follows becomes equally meaningful because today's realizations are only the beginning of a much larger cycle now preparing to unfold. Less than 48 hours after this extraordinary alignment, on July 14th, the new moon arrives in Cancer. Imagine today's revelations as seeds that have finally become visible after lying hidden beneath the soil for weeks. The new moon becomes the fertile earth where those seeds are intentionally planted. Every realization received today is given an opportunity to become action. Every emotional truth gains space to transform into a decision. Every moment of clarity becomes the beginning of something tangible. This is where you choose your direction. It is where intentions are formed with awareness instead of confusion. It is where emotional honesty replaces emotional survival. You are not beginning from nothing. You are beginning from a place that is finally rooted in truth rather than uncertainty. As the month continues, another profound transition arrives. On July 22nd, the Sun leaves Cancer and enters Leo, shifting the collective energy in a completely different direction. Then, only one day later, on July 23rd, Mercury stations direct, bringing its retrograde journey to an official close. The backward motion that has required reflection, reconsideration, and emotional excavation finally comes to an end. The mental fog that has surrounded your inner world no longer defines the landscape ahead. What was once difficult to explain now finds language. What seemed impossible to decide now becomes obvious. The insights earned throughout the retrograde are no longer meant to remain private reflections. They become conversations, commitments, agreements, creative projects, courageous choices, and practical actions capable of shaping your external reality. By the time July approaches its conclusion, another powerful chapter unfolds as Jupiter joins the Sun in Leo, while a luminous full moon rises in Aquarius. The transformation that began quietly within your emotional world now reaches outward into visible expression. The healing accomplished in silence begins influencing the life you build. Emotional understanding evolves into creative confidence. The voice discovered during today's Kazimi grows into the voice that defines the next chapter of your journey. Yet none of those future developments can exist without the choice made today. Everything begins with this single moment on July 12th, the instant when confusion finally gives way to unmistakable vision, and you recognize what has been trying to reach your awareness all along. This day carries extraordinary potential, yet many people will move through it without ever recognizing what has been offered. They will dismiss their emotions as ordinary stress. They will ignore meaningful coincidences. They will overlook the subtle messages appearing through conversations, dreams, and moments of unexpected clarity. Weeks from now, they may wonder why life continues repeating familiar patterns, never realizing they quietly stepped past the doorway that could have changed everything. Yet something different brought you here. Some quiet instinct encouraged you to listen. Some inner pull suggested there was more happening beneath the surface than ordinary astrology or everyday coincidence. That inner guidance deserves your trust because it has led you to this exact moment for a reason. The emotional intensity of this retrograde has not been imaginary. The confusion has been real. The heaviness has demanded more from your heart than you expected. But today the Sun opens its center and allows Mercury to receive the extraordinary clarity waiting within its heart. Through that single celestial moment, three profound truths emerge. One reveals the emotional barrier that no longer serves you. Another restores the forgotten part of your past that genuinely belongs within your future. The last awakens the voice that has patiently waited for you to believe in its wisdom. Do not rush past these revelations. Pay close attention to everything that unfolds today. Notice the dreams that remain vivid after waking. Observe the realizations that appear without effort. Listen carefully to conversations that arrive with uncanny timing. Record them before ordinary life distracts you from their significance. Spend time reflecting upon what surfaces instead of dismissing it too quickly. Allow yourself to trust the quiet certainty growing within you, because opportunities for this level of insight do not appear often. When they do arrive, they possess the power to alter the direction of your life in ways that only become fully visible with time. The haze is finally dissolving, and beyond it stands the understanding that has been patiently waiting for your arrival. Before we close, I want to sincerely thank you for sharing this time and energy with me. If today's message resonated with your journey, and you would like to continue exploring these celestial insights together, I warmly invite you to subscribe so you will not miss what comes next. I would also love to hear how this kazimi speaks to your own experience, so feel free to leave your thoughts, reflections, or personal stories in the comments. Your voice may become exactly the message someone else needs to read today. Until we meet again, take good care of yourself, keep listening to your inner guidance, and I look forward to sharing the next chapter with you very soon.